This is Dr. Matt Barber of Alabama Orthopedic Clinic. We are proud supporters of Ransom Reprogram, Ransom Ministries, and all of the good work that they do in our community. If you would like to learn more about us, check us out at alortho.com or barbertotaljoint.com. You can also hear more from me personally on the Ortho Real podcast. Thank you again for allowing us to be involved with Ransom Ministries and all of the great work that they do.
Hey, welcome to the Ransom Experience. My name is Matt Armbruster, Executive Director of Ransom Ministries. You're going to hear stories from people that we've served and people that serve alongside us, as well as those that we partner with throughout our community. You're going to hear about decisions they made throughout their life and things that happened through different avenues of their life that caused them to go down a path that they didn't see themselves going. And then also those decisions that they have to make on a daily basis to stay away from those decisions that they made in the past. Ransom Ministries empowers people to utilize their God-given gifts and talents in their career and for their community. All along the way, we learn how to help those close to us and also maybe even help ourselves. This is real. This is raw. This is Ransom.
With every star.
This show is brought to you by Ransom Recycling, your number one choice for electronic recycling in Mobile, Alabama. Help reduce waste in our landfills by recycling all of your unwanted, unused, and non-working electronics. Ransom Recycling is a division of Ransom Ministries that is helping to put men and women back to work. Check out ransomministries.com for a complete list of acceptable items. Drop-offs and pickups can be easily scheduled through the website. Please note that we are not accepting TVs at this time. Ransom Recycling, open 8 to 3 Monday through Friday. Help our planet while helping men and women re-enter the workforce.
With every star, we are born again. Open your heart, spend less time in your head.
I want to welcome you to the Ransom Experience, where we talk to different people that have been through our program, as well as volunteers who teach, who do different things, mentoring, and also just partners that we have. But I was thinking a little bit about what we really needed to do today, and it was a little different. It's going to be a little bit different. I know I've said that the last couple of weeks, but this time I kind of wanted you to get a look into what we teach in this class. And I talk about our programs. I talk about Ransom Reprogram, Ransom Recycling, Ransom Ministries. And many of you out there probably wonder, what the heck are they talking about? And why is these things affecting the people that go through it as well as the volunteers so much? So I kind of wanted to just walk you through kind of what our students and the people in our program kind of experience through the classroom portion of what we do. So I wanted to kind of start that today, and I'll probably go into next week and share a little bit more as we work through. This is an 18-session program that we have developed our own curriculum for that kind of fits the people, that demographics and clientele, people that we reach more often a little better, kind of gets on the level that they want to be on. And also, it just is better to understand than some of the other curriculums that we had pulled from. So in the first session, so they come in not knowing really what they're going to expect. They don't really know what the class is. Many of the people that we deal with don't even like school per se, which I didn't either really like school too much. So you have to make it interesting and relevant to what they're wanting to do, which is eventually get a job and be a vital part of our community. So we go through, like, session 1 is a big orientation, introduction. It's inspired by the scripture that Ransom was found on, Matthew 20:28, that says Jesus, as the Son of Man, did not come to be served, but to serve and give his life as a ransom for many, which serve means to wait on tables, serve other people, but also ransom means to liberate from misery. So that's kind of where we founded Ransom on. And our objective in that session 1 is to just tell them a history, how we started, where we came from, all the way back from the cafes that we had that were donation only, and how we got to meet people through the clean machine where we pulled around and let people take showers and do laundry in our portable shower and laundry unit. And then as we got to meet them, we realized, hey, if we could put people to work, they wouldn't need these things. And that's really where we've been developing Ransom Recycling and Ransom Reprogram. We've shared through different podcast episodes about what reprogram means, and it's kind of cool how it works out because that came way before any of the electronic stuff. So we were already moving towards like electronic things, speaking about reprogramming. When we reprogram a computer, we have to get rid of all the viruses and the things that are there and ways that it was, affected. And that's kind of how the people we serve are, is they've been affected by their surroundings, the people that have been in their lives. And we have to reprogram the way they think about themselves, about God, about work, about their community. And that's really what that first session is. And then each session they have a worksheet. So like in worksheet 1, they answer these questions. Why do I want to get a job? Why do I want a job? In what ways will being employed benefit my life? And then what things am I most proud of in my life? And then what things am I least proud about in my life? What are some of the obstacles or hurdles that may keep me from being employed that I have from my past? What am I nervous or unsure about regarding the reprogram classes? And what am I excited about through the reprogram classes? And then we always ask at the end of each session, what did you learn today? How can you apply it to your life? And how is it going to change me? And I think all of us could probably ask ourselves those questions on a daily basis because I feel like we need to learn something every day. So then we also ask them, how did you view work when you were growing up? And then we ask them, what's the best job you ever had? And what's the worst job you ever had? And they tell us why. So that's kind of a get to know me session. We get to know you, kind of see where they are and what they think about work and where they are right now. And then in session 2, we call it an honest look at a job. And that inspiration comes from John 1:10. Every session has a inspiration for that day. It says, he was in the world, and though the world was made through him, the world did not recognize him. And then we do in Psalm 139:14, I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful. I know that full well. So we talk about identity. We talk about who we are, speaking life into us instead of death, and meaning of character, what character means. We spend a lot of time on character, but mainly in this session, we want to speak life into them. So we talk a lot about they're fearfully and wonderfully made. The same power that raised Jesus from the dead lives inside of them. All those different things that make them special, because many of them don't feel special. Many of them are embarrassed. Many of them are disappointed in themselves. Many of them have others that are disappointed in them. So their identity has been one of bad, right? So we try to drive in them that they aren't bad. What they did is what they did. It's not who they are. And we work through that. And so we talk about what does identity mean? And we talk about it's how a person thinks about who they are is one of the most important steps of building a life of understanding purpose. If a person doesn't have confidence in their identity, they may not make good decisions about the directions of their life. So now they talk about where they are personally, and we use examples through the Bible. We always use the Bible because our faith is very important to us, and we believe that is the way you understand who you are. So speaking life and death, there's Proverbs that says the tongue can bring death or life. Those who love to talk will reap the consequences. And then it says, and so blessing and curses come pouring out of the same mouth. That's James 3:10. So we use an example of a little kid. If you have a little kid and you constantly are telling them, you're just dumb, you're ugly, you're worthless, you're abandoned, you're nobody, then they start to believe that. But that is not what God speaks of us. God speaks that we are fearfully and wonderfully made. We're made with a purpose. The same power that raised Jesus from the dead lives in us. No weapon formed against us shall prosper. All things are possible through God. So when we start pouring that into the people around us, then we start believing it. We start understanding it. So we talk about character. We talk about the things that make character: drive, attitude, dependability, honesty, humility, coachability, enthusiasm, punctuality, initiative, communication. All those things make up our character. If we become those, we'll separate ourselves from others in the workforce. And that's what we try to understand, let them understand that they need to be those things, and those things don't cost $1. If you're out there listening to us, those things don't cost you anything. You have to practice them. But we aren't naturally a person of character. If someone says they are, they're not telling the truth, because that's something that you teach. That's something that you learn. That's something that you practice, and you be very intentional about it. Hey, I'm going to be on time for everything that I go to so that I can work on that character. So then we go through and we ask them, who are you? And that's sometimes the hardest question in the world. Who am I? And I always tell them in the class, I say, if you don't know right now, just put a question mark. And who does God say you are? If you don't know, put a question mark. What does God say about my work? Does he want me to work to earn my relationship with him? Or does he want me to love him? Has my life always been easy and straightforward, or have there been difficult challenges, seasons that made me question my identity? What are my top 3 priorities in my life? So we start pulling these out and asking questions. And usually if I'm teaching, it's pulling it out of me too. And our teachers, that's why it affects the people that volunteer so much, because when they teach these lessons, they start having to examine themselves and making sure they have the character it takes to be that person. We use real life examples from people that have been through our classes. We talk about this lady, this Jess, who made bad choices in his life. He did drugs so much that now he forgets easily and had a hard time focusing. However, Jess no longer allows the past to hold him back. He wakes up every morning and makes detailed list of everything he does, from getting dressed to brushing his teeth. Seems very trivial, but it helps him be a person of character. And we share those stories of real life people. And then we look at an honest look at this, at a job. Why do we work? It says one of the biggest qualities a potential employer looks for is a good listener. The character trait of being a good listener may be more important than education or experience for many employers. If you're willing to listen, learn, and try, you will surely be set apart in the workforce. That's what we try to teach. We teach these soft skills. Just listen to people. Just do what you say you're going to do. Be that person of character. I think that's missing from the workforce, and I think most employers would agree that if you can have those things, they can teach you anything they have you to do. It's not about education. It's not about going to, all these trainings and doing all this thing. It's being a person of character. That's where it starts. And that's what we teach our classes through this group. So now we ask another question. Describe a time when you have had a difficult situation at work and how you resolved it. That's where we start working at conflict resolution, anger management. Those are things we teach through these classes too. Have you ever left the job poorly? What can make it hard to leave well? So we talk about leaving a job. If you're fixing to move on to the next job, you need to make sure you leave it well. 2 weeks notice. And no one's against you excelling in your proven field. But when you leave something just to leave it, and you leave that person hanging, that is not a person of character. And if you burn that bridge, you'll never be able to go back to that. So then they take this career assessment. We use this website called careeronestop.org. Many of you out there can use it. It shows you jobs out there. It shows you what you're made for. So we do a skills assessment and an interest assessment. And what that is they're going to find out what their skills are and what they're interested in, so they don't go pursuing jobs that they're no good at. So if you are not a social person and your strength is not social, then you probably don't want to get a customer service job. But see, what we've learned is that most people, they look for jobs just to make money, not based on their skills or the things that they are good at. I just need to make money. And that lines up with ABCs of work. Any job, better job, a career. Any job might be one of those jobs that maybe don't fit, but it doesn't have to be. It can be something that fits into your skill set and your interest set. So they'll do that, and then we'll go through jobs lists. And through that website, again, it's called careeronestop.org. You go on there, it'll tell you what's needed for that job. So when they take their assessment, it comes up with a list of jobs. It tells them if they need college, if they need no college, if they need a high school diploma, how much per hour, what the outlook for that job is, if it's excellent or really that job's on the down hill, it'll tell them that so they don't pursue that as well. So then we go through and we work a worksheet that day, and it's a life map, and it tells all about, let me tell you about my childhood, my youth, my adult, and my career. And so this section that we're in right now, the very first section of the program is actually the repair stage. As you see, it's changing the way that we think about people, about ourselves, about work, about all those different things. And now we're looking at our youth, and then on their worksheet, they have to circle any of these things that they've dealt with. Could be drug abuse, alcohol abuse, lack of respect for authority, fear of people, mental fatigue, fatherlessness, lack of integrity, dishonesty, fear, and there's a whole list of things, and they're asked to circle those things that they deal with so that we can make an honest look at who we are and evaluate who we are. So then in session 3 is one of the most powerful, and some of you heard them last week. It's story day. They get up and they share their life map that they've done the day before. They share that story in front of the class, not to embarrass them, not to point fingers and go home and say, oh man, you'll never guess what happened. But what we want to do is bring awareness that all of us have a story. Everybody, I don't care where you came from, what you do, everybody has a story, and it needs to be told because other people need to understand that is important to share your story. And I really believe that if we would listen to people's stories, we wouldn't judge so much. We wouldn't point fingers so much. We wouldn't say, man, I can't believe they don't just get a job. Why don't they just quit them drugs? Why don't they just get off the streets? Why don't they just do this? Because you haven't listened to their story. And many times their stories will tell you a lot about why they are where they are. You know, there'll be sexual abuse in them stories. There'll be adults that have abused them, have neglected them. There'll be people that have died in their lives. There'll be things that they lost a job that they had been driven for, they went to college for, and then they lost it and they don't know how to handle it. And that's what causes them to downward spiral of homelessness, addiction, and crime. Or they've been raised in that area. See, once we hear their stories, then we can kind of see where they are. So during this repair stage, that's what we talk about. We talk about their stories. And then we do some cognitive therapy stuff. We do these hands-on projects. During this time, after this class, it's a stained glass art thing where you take parchment paper and glue and paintbrush and you put it together and make a beautiful, almost a stained glass thing, but it's out of parchment paper and the sun shines through it. And that's what we show them. Even through brokenness, we can become something beautiful. And then we go into session 4, which is on David's story. We talk about David, who made all kinds of mistakes. If you know anything about him, he murdered, raped, lied, cheated, stole. But yet in the end, God called him a man after his own heart because he repented and he turned from those ways. And that's where we talk about repentance and, you know, what our past is what we did. It's not who we are. And we work through that. And then they go into talking about character and its place on the job, hardworking versus lazy, ambitious versus fearful, responsible versus irresponsible, loyal versus uncommitted, forgiving versus unforgiving, selfless versus selfish. And we write down our character traits that we feel like we have. And then they go through a worksheet. I know I'm doing a lot of talking, but this stuff excites me because I believe this is the change that our world needs to see. Not just in the people in addiction and homelessness and criminal activity and incarceration, but everyone needs to hear this. Everyone in the job force needs to hear that, hey, you are a person of character. That's what's going to set you apart. It isn't about how smart you are. It isn't about all those. It's character. So then they answer a worksheet. What are the consequences of David's actions? How have consequences for your actions affected your life? And have the emotional consequences for your actions affected the way that you work? And then in session 5, we go through what's called coping with trauma, where this is about what happened to you. So the objectives of those days is understanding how trauma affects us. We'll cover what is trauma, why do I respond to stress the way that I do, and why do I turn to these things when I really know I shouldn't. So what is trauma? Exposure to overwhelming, frightening, or dangerous adverse experiences may occur in childhood, adolescence, or adulthood and can change your brain development. May include emotional and physical abuse, abandonment, exposure to life-threatening or adverse events. may affect our spiritual, mental, physical, or social well-being by interfering with the healthy development of any or all of these. We talk a lot about that. We talk about the mental aspect of it. You know what? There's nothing wrong with admitting that you got some issues that you need to deal with. And God has placed people in your life, but also He's placed therapists, and I believe therapy is very important. I know there's a lot of people out there that they can give it to God, do all this stuff, and I think our God is a wonderful God, and I think He can heal any sickness and any mental issue, but I also believe He's made people that can help with that, and we need to take advantage of that. Trauma is different for everyone. No two people think the same, so no two people process trauma the same. Someone may feel full of sadness, anger, confusion, fear, or all these things and more at the same time. Trauma does not mean you're crazy, weird, or that something is wrong with you. Trauma is the brain and the body responding in a normal way to what feels like a life-threatening situation. Those are the things we talk about. We talk about our mind and our body. And we do take these ACE things, and you can go online and look at them if anybody listening wants to take one. But they're adverse childhood experiences, ACE questionnaire. There are 10 questions on this questionnaire, and you go through it and you say true or false or yes or no to the questions. Some of the questions are, did your parent or other adult in the household often push, grab, slap, or throw something at you? The other one is, did you often feel that no one in your family loved you or thought you were important? Were your parents ever separated or divorced? Did you often feel that you didn't have enough to eat, had to wear dirty clothes, or had no one to protect you? Did a household member of yours go to prison? Was a household member depressed or mentally ill? And did a household member attempt suicide? And so they answer these questions, and they say if there's more than 2, then we have trauma, and we have to work on those. But you want, and again, we all handle trauma different. So some people might go through divorce, their parents divorced, and not really affect them that much. But there are people out there that it totally destroys their life and the way that they think. So we do these ACEs to kind of see where they're at. And then how can I not only cope but thrive? So we talk about the causes of it, but then we talk about how we can deal with it, how we can go through it. And it talks about consult and spend time weekly with people you trust. Have them on speed dial. Exercise frequently. Walk, run, swim. Do whatever it brings joy. Have self-control. Connect with healthy, trustworthy people. Recognize that you are safe now. Distance yourself from toxic people and situations. And this is just a few of the things on the list that we go over. I'm not going to do the whole class because each session takes 2 hours to do these sessions. So now that is the repair stage. So we've told our stories. We've walked through that. We've asked where you are on the as far as work. We've talked about trauma, and we do that. Now we enter the rebuild stage, which I'm going to talk about next week when we come. I appreciate you joining me today. Hopefully, just me talking wasn't what you wanted to hear maybe, but hopefully it's what you needed to hear. And we have this curriculum where we can bring it into your schools, your businesses. We can teach these things in a condensed way that we can talk to your employees about those things in their lives. And also maybe even train your managers on these too, because I'm telling you, I learn something every time I teach one of these classes. Every time I look at it, I'm like, man, I got to do that a little different, or I got to do this a little different. And I think that that's what we really need to look at. So now that we went through the repair stage through a really quick time, I did it in 20 minutes instead of 2 hours each. That was 4 sessions, which would have been 8 hours of training, or 5 sessions, which is 10 hours of training. We're going to go into this rebuild stage next week. I hope you'll join me. Give me some feedback on what you like, what you didn't like. Give me some feedback on what you like about our podcast and what you'd like to see in our podcast that we're not doing now. I really want to hear from you. So you can go to any of our, anywhere you get your podcasts, and you can rate us, comment, review, subscribe, send it to your friends who think they need to hear it. But also, we just appreciate you joining us each week. And over the next couple weeks, we're going to cover these sections so that you can kind of see what we're learning, where we are. And I hope you enjoyed the podcast. Thanks you for joining me on the Ransom Experience. And until next week, we'll see you later.
Too many days in the darkness without a glimpse of the light. Running tired and broken and scared, but I swear I'll never give up the fight.